Hi there, and you've just tuned in to Dukascopy TV today. I have Riccardo Bocco with me in the studio, and he is Professor of Anthropology and Sociology Development at the Graduate Institute. Now, he has been working on issues related to the transition context for Arab countries as a result of Arab Springs. Hi, Riccardo. Now,
hello.
Can you tell me the type of impact Arab Springs has had on Arab countries and, of course, the impact on the economy?
Many impacts. To begin with, the Arab Spring was a big surprise to everybody, for both Arab societies as well as Arab leaders. The Arab Spring signaled the end of the wall of fear that was finally defeated. Economically speaking, I would like to go back to an important report of the World Bank that was published end of 2010 and called Doing Business 2011 in the Middle East, where the World Bank was praising the efforts of Tunisia and Egypt for having been able to modify their domestic legislation in relations to private enterprises and therefore favoring possibly economic integration and growth. Few months later, Robert Zoellick, the president of the World Bank, spring 2011, admitted that actually it was not anymore an issue, the question of simple growth, that there was actually a real problem of governance, and though he didn't speak overtly about the questions of corruption, he hinted clearly at the question of transparency. And several reports later, if you want, in 2012, the African Bank of Development has exactly put the finger on one of the main questions that is today, and which explains also some failures of the past, meaning that it is not enough a policy that tries to ensure economic and political stability versus or instead of a parallel process of democratization. What the Arab societies have been asking for at that time was the motto of bread, freedom and justice, which up to date have not yet been solved. However, in terms of background issues that are the challenges for the present Arab regimes and international donors is how to reconfigure issues of governance, bringing together both its economic and political dimension.
And Riccardo, you believe the US has had quite a big role to play. Now, international mayhem pretty much broke out and manifested itself as a result of September 11th. Can you tell me more about this?
Well, I think there is a rupture, an important rupture between the policy of the Bush regime and the Obama administration. Meaning that not only what we saw in Afghanistan and Iraq, the move to pull back the US Army, but more than that, the Obama administration that intervened in Libya after the Libyan operation clearly signaled that this was the last US military direct involvement in the region, meaning also that Europe was going to be responsible or to take care of its Mediterranean neighborhood for future events. And we saw that in the case of Syria, for the moment, nobody has been moving, and the US has been very cautious in taking any military initiative. Now, the other important point is that, and if we take again the case of Egypt, there the importance of the US is a real key issue. I think that we probably know what really happened in Egypt, maybe after 50, 60 years when we will have access to the Ministry of Defense, to the US Ministry of Defense archives, to see what kind of succession happened in Egypt. If it was a covert coup d'etat, because the US have been funding Egypt and they keep having a steady funding from the early 2000s up to today of more than $1,300,000 million for military help, plus an average figures of 2010 of $250 million for development aid, a figure that has been decreasing from 79, which was 900 million because it was the reward for both Israel and Egypt having signed the Camp David Agreement. But overall, the economic aid of the US is a key aid for Egypt. So certainly the US will keep playing a role, and they are doing it in the region. They are the best ally of Saudi Arabia. They support Jordan, basically the monarchical regimes in the area, and they follow closely what is going on in the republics and what kind of change they can support.
Well, viewers, that is it for right now, but do make sure you tune in for the second part of this interview with Riccardo, as we'll be looking at the role international economic development plays and, of course, the main challenges facing Europe and Arab states. So, see you then.